All right, risk profile. Well, I'm really excited to sit here around the table and talk with the Real Simple Energy team. One of the curious anecdotal pieces of Matt was a client of mine at my first startup. And so I think while I was like demoing the software, you were working on this at night. Right. I didn't even know. So it's kind of funny to bring that full circle. And, with that, would you guys, as best I can understand, what you guys did is you saw a need between the consumer and the brokers in the deregulated Texas market, who then sit between the consumer and the retail electricity provider. Obviously, we all learned a lot more about the Texas power grid in light of the winter storm, but if you could kind of unpack how you found and what made you choose to be in between the broker and the consumer as a service provider, and kind of what led you down that road, it would be I think a good place to start.
Yeah, sure. So a while back now, somewhere in 2015, I was looking to redo the power plan for my own house. At the time, I was trading power. I traded power for investment bank, JP Morgan. And, I realized at one point that I had spent 3 hours like pulling my historical usage, like analyzing the plans that I could find on the internet. And then at the end of it all, I didn't really know if I found the best plan for me, if it was the cheapest, because I was looking for a deal. And it hit me like, wait a second. If it's this hard for me to figure this out, like, and I'm trading like energy derivatives, like for a living, right? Like why, how could the regular person like have a chance, right? And so I started asking the other like power traders I know, hey, do you know a service that does this for you? Or there must be some sort of search engine out there that does it. No one knew of one. And I was like, well, I'm going to make it, I'll make it and see what happens. And so took me a few months to put together a little search engine. And at the end of it, the cheapest plan for me was one that I would have never, ever, ever seen. Yeah. I would have never come across. Right. And so, okay, there was significant value there for me. And I wasn't even a big user of power. And so I'm like, okay, if there's value here for me, then there's something to be had here.
What scales? It's like, 20% savings is like 50. Is it like 10? Like what is, well, what was the final result versus where you started?
So I would say 40% savings from what the average Texan pays, and then 20% savings after what I had already picked I thought was the best plan. That's amazing, right? Yeah. So another 20%. So if you're a person who lives in a large house in Texas, you use 20,000 kilowatt hours a year, that's, that could be $40 a month that you're just like leaving on the table. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, like if there's a service that does that for you, you don't have to mess with it. Yeah. And so it's a savings and a time element, right, to the business model. And so, I don't know, I just kind of went down the rabbit hole, like started working on this project. Shortly thereafter, I met Matt and Paul, and we talked about how the business model would best come about. And finally we launched something, in 2018, early 2018. And so, it's been great from there.
So you guys are working your day jobs, until what point? So you're bootstrapping it individually until mid 2018, where you bring on some partners, and then you're still moonlighting it until what point you do this full time?
Well, for myself, fortunately, I was in the industry already. That's how Trent and I were introduced. I was in retail energy for 10 plus years. So kind of knowing, but all sides of the table there with customer facing providers, brokers, and the challenges and issues in the market, I was able to kind of balance what I was doing day to day. Yeah. Because it's in the same world, but also kind of direct a lot of my energy towards the new, basically service offering, where it's a service really that is basically guaranteeing the customer never overpays for their residential power again. We're using technology that didn't exist 10 years ago. We're using relationships that necessarily weren't there 10 years ago. Plus, providers always buying and selling, companies starting new ones. Yeah. So being in the market, I feel, was key for us too. So fortunately, I had that background, and then the perfect triangle. Whatever. Yeah. I mean, the
conjoined triangle of success.
It's actually
been
interesting.
Very synergistic partnership with these guys. Yeah. And Matt was doing what he could from afar, but
right. I was going to say,
anchoring the ship.
We were all in varying stages of. So I would say Paul was the most full time.
Yeah.
Trent was half time until he became full time out of necessity, and I was basically part time until we were acquired.
Yeah. Doing
the day job of private equity and energy. So a lot of moonlighting, a lot of weekends.
See, this is like interesting because from my experience and my background, if somebody were to come to me and say, well, I'm going to moonlight this thing, I would tell them like, look, you can moonlight it if you want, but if it's worth doing, it's worth doing. And you just need to go jump. And so if that is obviously not your direct experience, what was it about what you were doing that fits with that? Or what about my paradigm is maybe a little bit wrong?
Well, I 100% agree with what you just said, because that's what I obviously did. We did. Again, I was in the industry more on the commercial side of the business. So I had the network and family members always asking, hey, thanks for taking care of this. You're consulting, for our buildings or our properties or whatever, but you never offer any residential offerings through your services. It's like, well, I honestly, what I always represented to my clients was, you're going to get the best deal for your type of business. All businesses use power in different ways. And so to apply that, when Trent and I first met, we were kind of saying the exact same things, but to a micro level for the residential market in the state of Texas, which is millions and millions of consumers. How do we do that for each individual household? And so again, that was where the plan kind of came and started taking shape. And so to be able to feel like you can always offer that service that can make that customer, rest easy, a little peace of mind. I felt like that's the only thing that has legs to exist and live in this market. Everything else, every other billboard, every other commercial, it's a flash in the pan. I mean, there's got to be a service that's going to always take care of the consumer, whatever the market does. And we feel like we've positioned the company, hopefully, with the market and the products and the providers, that will advance their offerings.
Yeah.
our
service should be able to absorb that and actually get smarter and place them with even better deals. We're waiting.
Yeah, and you know what the honest truth of it is, Mark? It's we would have done it full time sooner, but we didn't have the opportunity to because raising money for our business was extremely tough. We sit in the space of energy, but in energy, there's a bifurcation of like traditional developmental infrastructure capital providers and then venture capitalists. And as you know, 4 years ago, the venture capital space in energy didn't really exist. It was kind of fallout from clean tech that didn't work. And then before kind of the Cottonwoods and all the guys were digitizing the oil field. So we were in that nadir of like, there just wasn't a good partner for us. So, Trent and I had the idea and I had the skill set because I had done a data science degree in my spare time. And so it wasn't our preferred route. It was kind of out of necessity.
Yeah, this is a broader like startup, startup founder question that's especially true in Houston. I mean, as anyone who works in like corporate America gets older, they gain a skill set with whatever they're working at, and if they have any entrepreneurial spirit whatsoever, they might have ideas to start a company or something like that, But now they're older. Maybe they're married. Maybe they have a family. They have responsibilities or whatever, right? There's a myriad of things that could happen where they need a consistent source of income.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they have this entrepreneurial idea they want to pursue and they can't.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is, I'm telling you, so many people are at that stage and they feel stuck.
Well, it makes me chuckle because that's exactly what Cloudbreak is doing as an entity. We like to partner with people, mid-career professionals that make too much money to quit. It's basically the concept that I certainly understand.
I was at an event like early on. I was at an event at night, some startup Houston like event, and you sort of went around the table saying what you did, and I was like, oh yeah. And at the time I was consulting for EY, and I was like, oh, I'm a consultant for EY, but at night I do this. And then another person around the table was like, well, I'm a consultant at EY too, and I do this. And it turns out he worked on my same floor. I didn't know him, he worked on my same floor. And so I'm like, there's so many people out there, right, pursuing, and he was pursuing something in space, and so it's a missed opportunity for a lot of investors out there that where this talent is out there, these ideas are out there, and the entrepreneurs are not able to pursue it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, we talked with a couple of pure venture capital firms in Texas, and only one or two of them acknowledged us being in our late 30s as being a benefit.
Yeah.
They acknowledged that to tackle an industry like power with heavy regulation, with heavy entrenched incumbents, necessitates someone with experience.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. But in general, I think it was almost a negative, because it was like, to your point, why you're not doing it full time.
Yeah.
It's a net negative.
I can see the not doing it full time being a net negative. On the age side, obviously, the image of tech, Zuckerberg and the Google guys and even Microsoft all had these super young, super inexperienced guys become CEOs through the process of the growth that they experienced, not only individually and personally, but mostly the company. As you're building a company, when it starts, it feels like an infant. It can barely do anything. And that grows and goes through similar stages as it gets older. But, walk me through, when you guys were evaluating and tracking, one of the things that's also unique about you as a company is that you're really a business that's serving consumers directly. Most of my experience, most of the people that we work with here in Houston are building businesses to sell software to other businesses. And so what is it about the consumer space that makes it a little bit different?
Also viewed as a net negative by venture capitalists.
It's really hard.
A couple of venture capitalists told us that our idea would be better for a commercial broker model.
Yeah.
Because the resi is too hard to scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Consumer's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And we have an especially hard challenge in the retail energy space, because we have to look, the reason why this company exists is because traditional retail energy companies have failed consumers. So this company shouldn't exist, because if retail energy companies were serving customers well, then we wouldn't have a business model. So here we are, we're a middleman in this chain of events.
Middleman to the middleman.
Middleman, yeah, exactly. And so we are already in going direct to consumer, we are already trying to overcome the hurdles set forth by the legacy retail energy companies for reputation, poor customer service, all that sort of thing. And we have to overcome that and gain a customer's trust after we get through all that first step. Why are we different? Why are we not going to rip them off? That sort of thing. So we have to deal with that every day. It's tiring.
So the challenging thing with consumers is obviously you have a huge pool of potential consumers. And so getting a handful of new clients a day is not particularly exciting, I would imagine. Is it just the size of that flywheel is what makes consumer hard, or is it something else?
It's the size and the variability.
Yeah.
I mean, with businesses, at the end of the day, you have an executive decision maker that can make a big, meaningful decision to your P&L, right? Yeah. With a consumer, we have to treat every consumer like they're meaningful, and we're getting very, very minor incremental revenue off them. But that's ultimately what drives our business, is treating every consumer like they matter as much as a business client, right? Yeah. So it's tough. And that's why not a lot of other companies have tackled it.
To kind of jump on all that, there's another thing about residential power with consumers in Texas. They're very protective of this piece of their life and lifestyle. It's very odd to me, and I've been in the industry for a very long time. They'll show you their power bill to their 10-story office building and say, save me money. But you say, hey, what about your house? And they're like,
whoa.
my wife's going to take care of that, or something like that. And it's like, well, it's the same thing. And in principle, as cliche as it sounds, this is a mission-driven company, right? Yeah. We pride ourselves on being the truth tellers. We could do things the other way. Somewhat of our competitors do things, but the idea is this is the long game, and we understand with the momentum that we're picking up, and with the word that spreads, and again, the fact that we do have to tell the story almost every single day. Yeah. The positive side is that every single day gets a little easier because the word is out there further. And obviously, spoiler alert, we've had some pretty good recent success with
You mean beyond the acquisition, just in terms of
the acquisition being very good news for us.
Well,
but when you're not seeking it, so
network effects are very strong in our business. I mean, one of our strongest channels is referrals, and so that's why we do what we do,
because it's performance, it's results driven. Key partners, to Matt's point, consumer base is hard because you have to find the customer on the right day.
Yeah,
you have to have them in the right mood. You have to get there through the right channel.
Yeah.
It can't be like a buddy told me to call you kind of thing. That doesn't work anymore, So there's a lot of challenges, but honestly, it's more motivating for me personally, just because it can help a lot of people.
Yeah.
So mission, Paul mentions mission driven. Like you see that all the time on websites, and it's on ours, but I'm telling you, we mean it, right? Yeah. We feel great that we are creating, or we're making a better product for the consumer that did not previously exist. We're saving people crazy amounts of money, right? That they had no idea they were overpaying. And it's like, thanks to the technology we made, this is the new way to buy power. Like this is the new way you should be buying power in a deregulated market.
Right.
Yeah.
And once we get customers, they realize like, holy crap, I'm never going back to the way that I used to buy power. Like we lose very, very few customers.
Like less than 5%, less than 3%,
less than 1%,
0.5%.
Love it.
Okay.
Yes.
And so we don't, and most of the time those people are moving out of state where we can't serve them, or at least we haven't been able to up until this new acquisition.
Right.
So the reason why we don't lose customers is because we have great customer service. Okay. Table stakes, right? But also because the technology means you can't find a cheaper deal. Mm-hmm. So we have customers sometimes say like, I'm leaving you because I found a cheaper deal. It's like, okay, can you please send us that deal? And then we'll explain to them why it's not a cheaper deal. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, wow, I should, thank you very much. I'll stay with you. Yeah. So like we're saving people big money. Like my neighbor just the other week, we're going to save him $2,600 a year. And he didn't a year. He's one house. He had no idea he was overpaying. He's literally cutting his electricity bill by 55%.
Wow.
These are real. This happens all the time. And so yes, we're playing the long game, but it feels really good. And so it keeps you, every morning you wake up and you're like, I'm making a great product. I feel really great about what we're selling and what we've created. And so we're going to keep doing it.
So let's back up a little bit to, early days. Obviously you have an idea, none of you are doing this full time. And as with all businesses, you run into a roadblock or a hurdle. Did it hurt you? Did you grow slower in the product in the early days, having this backup plan, this plan B, where I don't really have to tackle this thing I don't really want to look at right now because I don't like it, because I've got, all this other work stuff I got to take care of. Did that cause problems or delay you in any way?
It was challenging because Paul knows this better than anyone. Trent and I were a little bit more naive to it, but you have to spend to grow in retail power.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, power is not a product that is discretionary. Like people are just, I'm going to go buy a jacket, right? It's something that they don't switch or don't think about. And, so we grew slower. We were consistently growing, but you needed money. Yeah. I mean, we had a great idea. We built everything in Python. So it was all open source. We had our costs were, because we weren't paying ourselves, our costs were just like $2,000, $3,000 a month in the beginning. So we were always just kind of treading, right? Yeah. We were fine. We were growing, but we couldn't spend.
Yeah.
That was it was frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's always funny, you hear the customers with the bright ideas, like, you guys should do this, you guys should do that. Be like, well, you have a checkbook? I mean, right. Look, you could have this on the side business that just kind of runs and grows as it. But the bottom line is the successes, the short little small stories that we saw every single day. My God, I mean, the state alone doesn't even know this service exists. The city doesn't even know this service exists. So how do you get the word out?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think the challenge was we were onto a really good business idea. We had really strong customer loyalty. We had our site was pretty good. Yeah. Listen, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but for the amount of money we had to spend on it,
that's great.
It worked well, and it was fully in Python with the idea of translating it to machine learning and building out all this future capability. So we were set up. The problem is, it's just we didn't have the money, and we were late stage professionals, and we were dedicating a lot of our own time in servicing customers and building the brand and getting the message out there. And so you couldn't do that without spending. I don't know what's your thought?
Yeah, no, that's true. And for money we did have to spend for customer acquisition, you're going up against absolutely gigantic marketing budgets from the legacy providers.
Texan Stadium. Right?
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, walk me through as you guys are hitting rough patches, you know, kind of finding the internal momentum to kind of push through and solve them and keep growing. As you were facing all of these huge constraints, you went out to the market, and it was difficult to really convince them that they were something that was investable according to their buyouts. That's a lot of no's. That's a lot of frustration to face. And I think, you know, when you don't have a backup plan, you know, you don't have a day job, like you got to sit there and figure it out. Like there's no, you don't have the, you know, well, I guess we could quit and, you know, throw it in the trash and just, you know, go back and get a day job. You can, but when you already are holding that down, you're already, you know, well, bonus season's coming up or whatever it is, and it's tempting to kind of pulling you back in, sucking you back in. How did you deal with those kinds of feelings?
I don't know. I didn't think twice about it. We had, you have, it's,
you just
Houston is a tough place to raise money for any company. I've talked to plenty of, you know, founders who would tell you the same thing. We had just as hard a time as anybody else. But when you're sitting there with a company that's doing really great, hitting all the metrics you want it to hit, given the capital that you have to work with, you can't just shut it down. Yeah. At least, you know, it's like, that's the first reaction. I can't shut this down. Yeah.
So Mark, the aha moment came really, we had met Paul shortly after we launched the first version of the site. We got a lot of momentum with him because Paul basically was driving our growth. We got ourselves in the Houston Chronicle in 2019 as offering a flat bill service. Yeah. That was very, very big for us, right? So the momentum was growing. In 2020, we kind of had an aha moment where Trent was raising money for his day job and the business idea didn't come together because of the pandemic. I left private equity because I didn't want to do it anymore. And I took a job that, you know, I didn't think was my future. And we said, we gave ourselves a timeline that, you know, the three of us, like, we're going to get this round raised before we run out of capital. Yeah. And that was it.
Yeah. And so
Arcadia came at the very end of that.
Yeah. So we effectively did that. Yeah. And
so that was it. We just kind of forced it. It was like, we're not going to keep going the same, like half in, half out. We're just going to go all in, raise the money and do it or find something else.
So I totally understand that. Now, what is Arcadia? How did they come to be? What is that relationship like post-acquisition?
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very kind of fortuitous, but small world circumstance where I was kind of familiar with one of the ex-executives from the Northeast. And so just through random circumstance, we were just chatting away. And of course, I'm protective because I know his background. He kind of knows a little bit about what we do, but he's onto a new venture here in town, actually. Yeah. And, you know, he was very, very just honestly, very honest. And he's like, I think you guys probably should speak to him if you guys are looking to raise money. Yeah. I said, well, we're looking to do it our way. You know, we were very fortunate. Our support, our original investors were everything to us.
Yeah. Friends and family.
True friends and family. And they understood it. There were no favors. They understood what we were doing. They were all customers. They were great referral agents. Yeah. And, you know, they enjoyed, I think, seeing what they supported. Yeah. And I think Arcadia enjoyed, you know, the story as well. But the kind of connection there was just they focus on the customer, and they have a very great national tidal wave of growth in the renewable space, and they're basing it on a trusted technology platform. So we were able to kind of match that that similarity that you know we're basing this on a consumer advocacy basis. And our value proposition is cheapest bills because we're in a very fruitful market in Texas when it comes to energy and the surplus really and the cost. So our service is technically a little different, but the way we serve the customer is almost exactly the same. And I think maybe we were all pinching ourselves when we had our first couple conversations as far as how we view the market.
Yeah. Quick sidebar question. Allowing customers to choose green energy, not green energy. What percentage customers do you think pick the more expensive green energy over not, roughly?
Well, that's a misnomer right there. Okay. You said more expensive green energy. Yeah. So nope.
In Texas, sometimes it's the cheapest.
Sometimes it's actually cheaper.
Yeah. Depending on the day.
It is hit the right day. It is a complete fabrication. Yeah. in the marketplace that people think that green energy should be materially more expensive than not.
And who do you think drives that
Right.
narrative? The legacy retailer who's
Right.
charging 30-40%.
Yeah. So
extra.
that's a product,
Because so they're saying basically somebody will pay extra for this product, and so they.
Like,
are
can you
happy
believe
to-
it? We're bringing you green power.
Yeah.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
It's people have been doing rec-based plans in Texas for years.
Yeah.
Green Mountain. And if you go shop in the market today, so the way our site set up today is, we have, 6, 12-month plan and renewable plan. And, there have been occasions when the renewable plan is the cheapest 12-month plan. And was it like 20 or 30% of our customers are on green?
It is. And we love promoting it. It's a great offer.
There's no reason not to.
In the state of Texas, why wouldn't you promote that when it's so affordable?
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Well, this is going to dovetail quite nicely into the whole debate around the freeze. And obviously, every
Right.
one of us was individually impacted. One of the things you guys did well in the context of the freeze is use your spot, both historically in your career and then also in your trusted relationship in between the customers and the brokers, to explain what was really going on in the midst of all this noise. What was that like? When did you realize you had to write these notes, and did it come out of, the company mission, or was it something you just felt like you had to do?
Well, it's during the course of the company, we send out customer blasts with, if there's any pertinent information that we think everybody should know or a certain subset of our customers should know, of course we do that. We were going into the weekend knowing that the following week was going to get really cold, and we knew that there might be some problems. At 8 p.m. on Friday, before the freeze, I got a call from one of my really good friends who still trades power. And he said, Trent, today was the craziest day I've ever seen in power.
Wow.
And I was like, I had no idea, because I had last time I traded during crazy day was the polar vortex in 2014, and it was really crazy, right? And that was pretty much what everybody else would have said, the same thing. So to hear him say, a very veteran like him to say that, I knew that the following week was going to be really crazy. What are you guys seeing? And so when Monday rolled around, and the power, I guess I forget which day, but the power went out in the middle of the night, right? And that's when we realized, okay, this is going to be really special event. And so we have to start alerting our customers. So I think either once or twice a day, we were sending out customer blasts saying here's what's going on. And, throughout the next few days, there was an incredible amount of misinformation in the media. We had to send multiple emails to reporters asking them to retract their stories, because they were literally scaring people for no reason. It was complete false what they were saying. And so because of that, we felt the need, as days went on, as hours went on, we felt the need to write even more detailed emails explaining more than we would have ever thought we would want to explain to our customers, because customers don't care about the detail. We're like, well, maybe we should explain the details so people aren't scared, And so, at one point, and I'm sending a lot of these emails with no power on in my house, right? I'm sending them off the hotspot on my phone. And at one point, there was a time when we thought that the power, which had already been out for 36 hours, we thought it was going to be out for another 3 or 4 days based upon the intel we were getting from all the people we knew in the marketplace, which is definitely not what the news was saying. The news was saying power's gonna be on in 6 hours and all this. And, we made a decision to send out an email. I was preparing with my family for the power to be out for 3 or 4 more days, right? Which meant that's a material change in how you plan for the rest of the few days.
Sure.
So I'm like, do we want to send this email that tells customers power might be out for 3 or 4 more days when no one knows what the future holds?
Yeah.
And so we ended up sending it out. I was very nervous about it. We got back nothing but thank yous from customers, right? Yeah. And never did anybody email back saying you tried to scare us, which was, and in the email we said, we hope we're wrong. Yeah. We hope that the intel we're gathering is wrong, know? And thankfully, a couple days later, ERCOT got things back on the rails and it was fine. But so that's we're just trying to make a better way for customers to buy a product they have to have, be really transparent, deliver the best possible price, and have really great customer service, and not and just get out of your way. And that's what we did.
Does the freeze invalidate the deregulated market, or does it empower it?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I think it enhances big time, just because a few terrible decisions long ago with the unfortunate issues that happened, that week.
Yeah, I mean,
this was human decision making, if you ask me. So, and not good decision making, obviously, for the fallout. The sad thing is that, everyone thinks not everyone, a lot of outside market people think it's a deregulation issue or the Texas grid issue. When 2 years ago, Texas grid is the envy of the nation and still is. So it's
in the context of like power delivery or green energy.
Yeah, the advancements, everything.
Green
I say the whole bucket. The way we're pushing wind and all these other sustainable energy initiatives, the way we're trying to keep costs low, not in a manipulative manner, but actually letting market call the prices. And the best thing I wanted to jump on to Trent's point about, it's crazy, but the best thing about our service and working here and growing this company is waking up in the morning and know you don't have an agenda, right? The fact that we were confidently saying, we promise you, this is the honest truth. People still don't want to believe it because that is how crazy this industry has gotten over 20 years. 20 years just purposefully overcomplicated for the consumer. Because what happens when you overcomplicate somebody? People just throw their hands up and say, tell me what to do. And so that's what, I'd say 90% of the consumers in Texas still think. We're slowly working towards, growing that. But honesty, transparency, like these are the things we say all the time. And other companies can say it, but in 6 months, when the agenda changes or the direction of that company changes, they have to change the pitch. We don't change the pitch.
Yeah. And, I was going to dovetail off this a couple of things. One, talk about growing pains. You have the three of us responding to customer emails all day, every day. People who have worked in energy for 15 years, running, multi-billion-dollar, platforms, responding. And we do it because we know we have to. We love to do it. We're passionate about the industry, and that's kind of how we've grown, and that's why customers have stayed with us. But I would say on the February thing in particular, this is where having us benefits because the message was complicated. Just like everything else in society, it's complicated. There's not one right answer, and people want to distill it down to the black and white truth, right?
It's all because
blame deregulation, blame the wind turbines, blame the weatherization. It's a confluence of everything. But I think having Trent behind the helm was super valuable because he treated our customers with respect. He sent the ERCOT load forecasts on a daily basis out to our customers, knowing that probably 50% of them don't understand it, 20% of them, but for the 10% or 20% that really cared and they looked at it, they knew what was going on, right? And that's just us,
and
right?
we bolded sentences in the paragraph. Like, if they're going to read anything, read this, which is, you are okay. We take care of your service. We make sure you're always in a fully fixed energy rate. You're not in a floating variable.
That was another thing. With the gritty blow up, everyone was worried that everything was variable exposure. People conflated provider of last resort plans with variable plans. Having us, like, we responded to the emails because we care. We cared about the message being correct.
And unfortunately, we did have one provider go under.
Multiple of our providers
we moved
switched.
about 40, 50 customers in 4 hours. Some of them had no idea.
We have had 3 or 4 providers either go bankrupt or get bought.
Get sold.
So this is why customers pay us. They
and
they don't want to think about it.
And we immediately switch them, which is our job, which for $9 a month, you get insane service because if you didn't have us and your provider went bankrupt, you probably wouldn't
be
know.
on a 15-cent plan.
And then
your rate would double.
Then it's gone, right?
But then you get free solar days, though. I'm just saying.
Nights and weekends, man.
I mean,
for all that crypto mining we're doing.
right.
Daytime, do it in the daytime. Peak hours.
I think we stuck with this through and through because we were all passionate about it, right? It's like an idea that we were convinced would work. We were passionate about the business, and that's kind of what drove it.
Well, I love the story. You're going through an acquisition at this point. You're doing it because you can see that with the partnership, you
wasn't
can
that the week of the acquisition?
We
coincidentally
we closed
or
with
fatefully we closed
with
Wednesday.
no power at our house.
That was literally the same week.
God bless Texas. That's amazing.
Doing it through a hospital.
He was signing from his car, I think.
He called me and I said, "Hey, okay, great news. My kid's doing a snow angel and I can't feel my hands." So I put the phone down and we went back in by the fireplace. But that was
it was the same week.
Couldn't even celebrate.
Man, that's
I have a picture of the angel.
Just so good.
So
closings are the best, aren't they? Like when you actually sign on that, like what did we just do? What just
you know
happened?
You know what the funny thing is for us, like it was business as usual. But it was relieving that we had someone backing our business plan that we had wanted for so long. But we were just 3 normal guys running our business, right? It didn't really change much.
Yeah. Yeah. Since closing happened.
Except for you don't have to work anywhere else now, right?
That's true. Yeah, I quit my job. Yeah. And so now I'm working at Arcadia.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. It sounds crazy, but I mean, since closing happened that week, it was like, we're, sending out these blast email to our customers, trying to keep like
A straight
everything.
face, yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, like we need to sign all these documents.
Just kind of wrapping it back to the Houston market, starting a business here in Houston, what resources did you connect with? What did you appreciate? What did you miss? Like what was starting a tech company here in Houston like?
Speaking for myself, I mean, I got my MBA from Rice in 2008. I've stayed pretty connected as an alum.
Yeah.
I think first of all, the Rice Alumni Network is incredible. I use it extensively, both for the job I got right out of business school, but also like for this entrepreneurial venture that I've sort of been on. So I've used that a lot, and I can't speak highly enough about that. But otherwise, like the other incubators and Station Houston in town, like these were all valuable to us to meeting and connecting with people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Houston's a great city to be an entrepreneur and start stuff. Just needs more investors.
Yeah. And don't quit. I mean, just keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you hear it. It's not a cliche. It's the truth. And hopefully we're proof of that. And obviously many other stories.
Well, I mean,
out there.
this 5-6 years ago was very different than today, right?
Yeah.
It's like 5-6 years ago, oil and gas was still king. Shale revolution was kind of mid form. No oil and companies were looking to diversify their holdings. The venture capital funds were kind of still staying away from energy, or if they were going to energy, it was solely renewable. So there was a dearth of capital 5-6 years ago in this city, but the talent was there, right? You have great schools, you have solid engineering background,
right?
You have people like myself that live in Texas that do data science degrees online and want to stay in Texas. Now today, you're seeing the benefits of it.
Yeah. I mean,
sure.
I certainly am seeing, through Tech Rodeo,
right.
That will be done by the time this is airing. It's been a lot of work, but it's a distributed work. Like we have a unique style here in Houston where there isn't really like a strong, overwhelming presence of like, this is what you do. We kind of expect founders, former founders, businesses to all chip in and add something to the community, which makes it feel a little unwieldy at first, but I think it unlocks a lot more power when you are asking people just to pitch in and help out. With that in mind, if somebody's listening to this podcast and they're thinking through their own story, their idea they want to moonlight or their struggle that they're in the middle of right now, how do they reach out to you? Are you open to getting kind of emails from entrepreneurs asking for advice? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything we can do to help Houstonians or Texans in general.
And what's a good email address?
Any one of us. So Matthew.Herpich at Arcadia.com, Trent.Crow at Arcadia.com.
Paul.Paris, not like the city.
Paris.
PARAS at Arcadia.com.
Yeah. Or go to Real Simple Energy, reach out.
Chat us on the site.
Hit support at realsimpleenergy.com. They'll get us.
So it's important to keep in mind the three of us are all native Houstonians.
Yeah.
And being a Houston-based business is very important to us.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Risk Profile, really appreciate your time, guys, from the Real Simple Energy team. I'm excited to see what you guys do in the future. And let's go ahead and go out there and be someone.